This AI coding assistant is different to all the other coding assistants I've shown you on this very channel. It's not like GitHub's Copilot, it's not like Code Whisperer from Amazon, and it's not like ChatGPT from OpenAI. It's not like any of them. It's different in two fundamental ways. Firstly, it's not a single AI, it's more like a meta AI, or more accurately, a code assistant that farms out requests to whichever LLM it deems most appropriate to the task. The second is that it's so tightly integrated with your IDE that if they didn't deliberately make the distinction, you wouldn't even know that it was AI. I'm Saeed, the Codogrammer, and in this video, we're going to take a look at the new JetBrains AI coding assistant in practice. Before we start digging deeper, let's take a quick look at their AI coding assistant in action from their promo video.
Hit Alt or Option Enter and select Suggest Refactoring from the AI Actions context menu. AI Assistant will suggest refactorings for this code. It also explains why these changes are necessary. If you're happy with the suggestion, you can insert it as a diff into your original file. Type in a prompt and wait for the response. AI Chat takes your current project context into account to give you the most accurate answer possible. Then, any code you generate in the AI Chat can be inserted straight into your file. Start typing in your current file, and AI Assistant will propose the most likely piece of code to continue your file by analyzing all of the surrounding code. Open the AI Actions context menu and select Write Documentation. AI Assistant will analyze the contents of the selected code and its relevant context to provide rich, formatted documentation.
So this is a paid AI assistant that is available if you have an active JetBrains IDE subscription, such as IntelliJ Ultimate. So unfortunately, you cannot use it if you have something like the Community Edition. There's also a free 7-day trial, but again, it's only for those with a paid license for the IDEs, either commercial or personal. And now if we take a look at the pricing, for the Pro version, you've got yearly billing at £79 a year, and in the US, that's $100 a year. And on monthly billing, it's £7.90 a month, or in the US at $10 a month. For organizations, it's a little bit more expensive, and there is the 7-day free trial. And for enterprise pricing, you have to contact them. So currently, what's the list of things that you can actually do with this? Well, it can help with a bunch of coding tasks. It can generate single and multi-line code suggestions, of course. It can generate documentation. It can generate Git commit messages based on the changes that you're about to commit. It can suggest more intelligent renaming refactors. And one of the most important is the AI chat window, where you can talk to the AI about your project and, of course, get more help and suggestions. If you've used ChatGPT or seen my Copilot chat videos, then you know the kind of thing I'm talking about. And in addition to this, I'm sure they'll find more and more actions in the IDE into which AI can be integrated in the near future. All right, so here I am in the IDE in IntelliJ IDEA Ultimate Edition. Now, before we start looking at what this AI assistant can generate, let's have a look at how you can invoke the AI assistant. So first of all, you have this AI chat window here where you can just type in your questions. If you want to ask a question right here in your editor pane, you can simply type command and / and you get to ask the question right there rather than in the AI assistant window. You can right click anywhere and go to AI actions and get access to the options from there. You can also select a piece of code and you get this kind of context menu pop up where you can hit this icon and just hover over this icon and you can see a bunch of AI options there. The other thing you can do is you can hit Option Enter, and if you click Enter again, you'll invoke the context menu, which is this one here, but you can also right click and then assign a shortcut. All right, so that's how you invoke it. Now let's go ahead and see it in action. So this is just a simple Java project where I've got classes related to teaching about nulls or functions or whatever. So it's a pretty simple project. So let's just ask the AI chat assistant to explain what this project is about. Okay, so this is a bit strange and also basically wrong because I don't think any of these things exist in this project. So let's just have a look. Yeah, these classes don't actually exist in this project. So I don't know if it's looking at some of the dependencies that have come in, some of the external libraries and sort of inferring something from there. I'm entirely sure what it's talking about. It's basically a pretty simple Java project. So this all looks wrong to me. Okay, let's ask some more questions. Okay, it talks a little bit about the dependencies and that kind of stuff. Again, it's talking about Jakarta EE, so it's obviously found that somewhere in the external libraries, and it's talking about that. It doesn't tell me much about the Java version. Okay, so not the best start. Let's try that. Let's just have a quick look at the POM. So you can see here that we've got Java 17 in the external libraries. Oh, and also I just realized it's a Gradle project, not a Maven project. I had forgotten about that. So it's also got that wrong as well. So, okay, so not a very good start. So let's put that to one side. All right, let's try and create some code. So we'll say new chat. So let's go here and we say, let's just call that task. And we can say function that will calculate the likely number of times someone has to 12-sided dice to have a 50% chance of rolling a 12. All right, so it does generate it in this AI diff viewer, which is quite handy. Okay, you can switch to a two-sided view or a unified view. We don't have much in our code base at the moment, so that doesn't really matter. So we can specify, we can try again, or we can just accept all. So let's accept all in this case. Yeah, we automatically get a main method. So let's just run that and see how it behaves. Yeah, number of rolls 8 to get a good probability of generating a 12. Let's just run that a few times. Yeah, so pretty consistent. So I'm not going to check the maths here, but yeah, it looks pretty good. And there's some explainer comments there as well. So now let's ask the AI assistant, can you generate some unit tests for this? Yeah, okay, so we didn't actually specify this particular class here. So let's go here. So let's select this function and go here and say generate code. Oh, okay, can you generate some unit tests for this code? Yeah, okay, it's created a new class, which is good. Public static int. That's strange. So let's put that two-sided. So it's trying to insert that class into here, and it looks like it's going to overwrite that and also overwrite the code with the tests. So it's strange. So maybe, I don't know if we can put this into a new class. So we can say accept compare with clipboard. Yeah, so let's just say accept all to see what happens. Yeah, you see it's changed our class to use this test class, so that's no good. So let's say, can you generate some unit tests for the task class? Yeah, that's much better. Although it looks just like to do statements at the moment, not the actual test. You need to add independence into your project is already present. Let's say, can you actually implement these methods rather than just add comments? All right, so that's not great because it has done some implementation work here, but I'm pretty sure that if I put that into ChatGPT, I'd get a much better answer because I've done things like that in ChatGPT before. I think I've even made videos on that kind of thing. So this is a bit disappointing, to be honest. And let's go back to here and see if we can use some other AI features. So let's go over here first of all. So if we just highlight this. And we say suggest refactoring. Okay, and then it jumps into this task here, and yeah, it's suggesting a bunch of sensible refactorings here. This isn't actually what I was trying to do. I was trying to rename this class, but we'll go back to the ordinary refactor menu and see the AI task from there. So basically this has suggested a bunch of refactors like create some constants and that kind of thing, tidying up the code. So yeah, this is pretty good. Now let's go back to here and just right click and say AI actions. And if we say refactor and rename, Okay, now you can see here that we've got these two here, which are not particularly useful, and it's the kind of standard inferred stuff you get in IntelliJ. It's not necessarily suggesting any particularly useful refactoring suggestions, but if you look at these ones here, roll calculator, dice roller, roll counter, roll calculator, these are actually pretty good, and these are AI suggestions. So I definitely think this particular thing is a big improvement, the refactor option. Okay, now let's try and maybe create a game. So let's delete that. So straight away, it's looked at what we've done in the past, and it's just copied that. So press escape. Let's add a comment. Create a noughts and crosses game. Okay. Yeah, so far just creating comments, not actually doing anything useful. No, let's go over here and say new chat in the game. Yeah, it knows that it's also called tic-tac-toe, so that's good. Yeah, looks like it's generated a pretty simple code, can probably be optimized quite a lot. So let's insert the snippet at the caret. So we have that option here. We can also copy to the clipboard, but we'll just do that for now. And then let's create so the class header. Get rid of that. Let's see if these close. Okay, and let's create a main method if we don't already have one. All right, there's a bunch of iterations there, it looks like. Yep, let's go ahead and run that and see how it behaves. Yeah, it looks pretty good. It doesn't give you a neat demarcation of when the next turn is. So I think that's the board there, then that's the board again, and that's the board again. Yeah, it looks like it works, but probably not the most elegant version of this game. So we can say right click, AI actions, suggest refactoring. And you can see that it goes over here and looks at improving the code. Okay, so let's say cdiff and apply. So yeah, it's made some minor improvements by the looks of things, but nothing particularly drastic. Let's say two-sided view. Yeah, it looks like it's maybe genericized a few things. Okay, so let's accept all of those. All right, that's pretty good. Now let's try finding some problems. So we can say find problems. And it mentions the board member variable is never initialized. It mentions the variable current player is declared but not used. That's strange because why did it generate it then? No usage is found. Yeah, okay, good. Yeah, and it suggests an improvement. So all in all, these suggestions are better. So it seems like if you give it something to work with, it's a lot better than trying to get it to create something from scratch. So it seems like maybe it's a little bit better once it's got some more context. All right, so let's see how much creativity this thing has, and let's ask it if it can create a completely new game from scratch. You create a All right, this is interesting because I asked it the same question earlier and the response came back was, I'm not that kind of AI and it goes against my terms to produce a game, but now it seems to have gone ahead and actually created some kind of game. So the program generates a random number between 1 and 100. It will ask the user to guess the number. So let's see if we can copy that to the clipboard, and it's the name of the class. Oh, the class is actually called main, so not the best name, but let's go for that. Let's paste that in there. Let's run that and see if it actually works. There's a number between 1 and 100, 56. Your guess is too high, 42. Guess is too high, 12. Guess is too low, 33. 29, 2. 27, 28. See how you win. Okay, so it's actually not really a bad game because it's telling you if you're kind of too high or too low, and it lets you keep guessing. So it's not too bad. So it's kind of not too bad. So that's pretty good. Let me see if I can go back through my chat history. I did ask it this question before. Yeah, here we go. So if you look at this, I said, can you come up with a new simple game with minimal code? And it said, I'm sorry, but as per my guidelines, I'm not allowed to create any games. My role is to mainly assist you in software development tasks and answer any programming lifecycle related questions. However, I can certainly help you with some code snippet logic if you're developing a game. What kind of game are you trying to develop? So it was kind of a little bit unhelpful, at least to begin with. And my thought when I first saw that was that maybe this is some kind of way to prevent people using it just like a general chat GPT type product and trying to keep it specific to professional programming tasks. But yeah, I guess I could have probed it a little bit further and it probably would have generated something. All right, so next up, let's see if this can actually explain some code effectively. So let's just highlight this section of code here. And we go here and we can say, explain the code. And let's see what this comes up with. It posted a simple guessing game written in Java. First generates a random number, initializes a guess variable in fact correctly. Yeah, I would say looking at it, this is a pretty useful explanation. So if you had a particularly complicated piece of code and you were just struggling after staring at code for a long time and you just wanted a word-for-word explanation, or you wanted to comment the code, as you can see, this is actually annotating the code with comments as it's going along. And I actually think that for especially new developers, that could be really helpful. I personally prefer to just read the code unless it's particularly obscure, but I definitely think that has a use. Now let's see how this behaves when we try to get it to generate some comments. So if I just do that, I can see that it's generated something with its normal code suggestions, but let's instead use generate with AI assistant and see what that comes up with. All right, that's not very good. Let's try that again. All right, so let's see. The main class represents a simple number guessing game. The user is asked to guess a random number between 1 and 100. That's not too bad. Now let's try to, these are not good examples. Let's go over here to see if we can find a function that takes some parameters. Let's go to one of these. All right, let's try and generate some Java docs for this method here, just as an example, because it takes some parameters. So if we do that, let's say generate with AI. So you can see the default suggestions were not very good. Yeah, okay, this is a much better example. So this is quite a lot of notes here that we've written, and this is all generated from the AI assistant. The automatic generation was very limited and basic, and we would have had to fill it in. But this goes on to say that the person record class represents a record of a person's name and age. It's immutable. It gives a usage example, and it's got a bunch of important notes based on the context that it can see, because this was a class that I wrote for a lesson about Java records. So you can see that it's inferred that and given a bunch of important information there. All right, so that's much better. So let's go back to our code here. So let's say if we want to commit this code, so we can go here and see all of these changes. So let's see all of this stuff. Let's just check a bunch of these things. And here we want to type a commit message. Now, I've often been criticized for very poor commit messages because I commit so frequently and it's hard to come up with good explanations of what I've actually changed. So let's just try this AI assistant and see what it comes up with. Okay, now that's not too bad given the actual changes that I selected here. So let me select some other changes now. So I'll unselect these, and now I'll select some of these changes. It looks like there's quite a few changes here that aren't committed. So let's select the game ones. Let's lose that. Let's maybe lose some of these. Now let's see if we can regenerate that message. So it talks about the new classes for the AI game, number guess game, and function consumers. I introduced a new class including AI game. It's not actually an AI game, but it was generated by AI. Number guess game and 2 classes demonstrating the use of Java functional interface. Yeah, this is pretty good. Maybe a bit more detail than we need, but actually not too bad. And then you can go ahead and commit and push. Now, certainly, just to get yourself a starting point, I can see this thing saving a lot of time, especially since I commit quite a lot, and it would stop the kind of criticisms of very brief and not very clear commit messages that I often get and help to break that bad habit. So I think that's another nice feature. Okay, now the next thing is that we've got this function here. We can select that and go here and we can say new chat using selection. So now it quotes that piece of code and I can ask it a question directly related to that piece of code. So I can say, can you, for example, improve this code? But the other way of doing that is I can just come here and be inside this function and click command / and say, can you improve this method? Yeah, what it's done is it looks like it's gone back to the verbose version of this method. So I won't actually accept that, but I will hit regenerate and let it try again. Yeah, and I can see that it's made some changes. I think it's extracted a few other bits out. Okay, so again, we won't go into detail about whether those changes are good or not. That's just showing you how you can invoke it quite easily, either from here or from here. Now, earlier we tried to generate some unit tests, but this time around, we can go directly to this context menu option and say generate unit test and see if this does any better. Now this looks slightly better than before. It's generated a completely new class with a bunch of unit tests. The only thing is I can't quite easily see how we could put this into a new class automatically. Is there an option here? No, I think the only option we have here is to select all of this code and to copy it and to paste it into a new class. So I think that's a bit of a shortcoming here, or maybe I just don't know how to use that feature. Let me know in the comments below if you know how to insert this into a new file using the menu options that we've got here. All right, so coming back to the game class, let's try one other thing that we can do. So we can go to AI actions and we can say convert to another programming language, and we can select something from here. So let's try C++ and see how it does. Okay, that appears not to have done anything, and I think maybe that's because you have to select some code. So let's select that entire file, so AI actions, and convert to another language. Let's say C++. Yeah, okay. That was pretty quick and pretty much instant. I'm not entirely sure. Yeah, it's created a new file here called gameapp.cpp, and most of this looks pretty much the same, but this section here looks different. If you're a C++ developer, let me know if that looks good. Now, one thing that's slightly strange is it's actually gone ahead and converted that file rather than created a new file with the translated code. Let's see if we can undo that. Yeah, we can undo that. Let's try a different language. Let's say AI actions, convert file to another language, and let's select Rust. Seems to be popular these days. Yeah, and I'm not sure that's actually done anything. Let's try that again. AI actions, convert file to another language, Rust. Yep, okay, it's done it, and it's put that there. We don't have the Rust plugin. I'm not going to bother installing that now, and it's done it, and it did it very quickly. It took me 2 tries for some reason, but it did it very quickly. Now, the language conversion stuff I've used for Kotlin in the past. I've never tried it with any other language, so I don't know how much of this was already available in IntelliJ, but I think that's pretty impressive and really quite quick. It's probably something you could do in ChatGPT as well, but again, it's handy to have it here embedded right inside the IDE, especially if you're familiar with one language, but you really need to code into another language. You can get your message across and the core functionality, and then just convert it when you need to into your desired programming language. All right, so the next thing we're going to look at is if you have particular prompts that you find yourself using a lot, you can actually configure those to appear in the AI actions pop-up menu. So you can go to add your prompts, and let's create a new prompt here, and we'll call that refactor this method. And we can add the variable selection. So we can pass it the selection to the prompt, and we'll give the prompt name refactor method. Okay, this is probably not a very good example, but just for the sake of demonstration. So let's get that back to Java, and we'll highlight that, go here, and you can see our refactor method, and we just pass that to the AI assistant, and you can see that it's done exactly what we wanted. So if you find yourself doing that a lot, I highly recommend creating these kind of prompts to your prompt library. It just makes it so much quicker than actually typing something out. And you can choose whether to pass it a selection or just make a straightforward prompt. So I think that's really, really handy. All right, so I think we've pretty much looked at the main things that you can do with this. Now, just having a look at this chat window here, you can click on all chats and see a history of the chats that you've created in here. With a timestamp, you can click into any of them if you want to see what you were chatting about at the time. You can also go over here and you can dump the chat, and you get a file which looks like this, which has all the information about your chat here. But just keep in mind that there's a lot more context going to the AI assistant in order for it to be able to help you effectively. All right, so how can you actually get your hands on AI assistant? Well, AI assistant is generally available since version 2023.3. You need a JetBrains IDE with a paid subscription. It can be commercial or personal. And then you go to Tools and AI Assistant. From there, you can either activate it by paying or activate a 7-day trial license. Now, one important thing to note is that it's only available in geographies where ChatGPT is available. You can see that at this link here, which I'll include in the description below. Think about how this thing actually works. So the IDE essentially calls out to something called the JetBrains AI service. So the AI assistant calls out to the AI service. The project context along with the request is passed to the JetBrains AI service, where it can determine the best LLM to farm out the request to. It kind of acts as the orchestration between the IDE and different LLM providers. Now, in terms of LLMs, they use OpenAI GPT-4 along with their own smaller models, which are useful for shorter code suggestions. They're also likely to use Gemini Pro. If you don't already know what that is, I made a video about it on this channel, so check that out. Probably using the Vertex AI platform from Google Cloud. And the AI assistant is available in all of their IDEs, including Fleet and ReSharper. If you want to know more detail, there's this excellent talk by Vladislav Tankov, which I'll include a link to. He talks about machine learning, what it is, how these tools work, and some of the background, the genesis of how they got to where they are now. He also talks about the importance of scale and resource and money versus just the algorithms and the clever technology itself. He also talks about the fine-tuning process and the fill-in-the-middle techniques, so I highly recommend checking out that talk. And he also talks about some of the context that's available to the AI assistant compared to other AI tools. And don't forget that JetBrains know a lot about your projects because they have all of that structured information about your project as it is. Now, one important thing to note is that they do via opt-in collect data, including usage and the full chats with the AI assistant. However, this is not used for training MLs in case that is a concern for you and your organization, and they don't share this with third parties. All right, so to wrap up, in my view, if you happen to use JetBrains IDEs, this is the best AI assistant you will get. Even though we saw in the early examples, it wasn't perfect, it didn't quite get the understanding of the project that I was looking for, but many of the suggestions were useful, and I think it has the most potential of all of the AI coding assistants that I've seen. And this is for two key reasons. It's fully integrated into your IDE, so it's embedded into all kinds of operations into the IDE, like refactoring, commit messages, and all kinds of other stuff. And the second reason is that it is a facade over many LLMs, not just tied to one. So it can farm out requests to the best, most affordable, most efficient, fastest LLM to get the best suggestions out there. Let me know what you think about the AI assistant in the comments below. And if you don't want to be the last to know about important AI, tech, and programming news and tech tutorials, then be sure to hit subscribe. Thank you for watching.